Hi, friends. It's Lauren Taylor, and I'm so excited to have you back in my craft room today. I got this awesome box from scrapbook.com with Tim Holtz's release from today at the time that this gets posted. It's the Distress Mini Storage Tin, as well as a lot of distress paints that are coming back from the vault. So there are 20 paints total, and they fit perfectly in the storage tin. We have kit 1, which is the pinks, 2 is oranges, 3 is greens, 4 is cools, and 5 is neutrals. I was also gifted a few of the latest release from Stampers Anonymous with Tim Holtz. I have the tiny prints, floral trims, and bold botanical rubber stamp sets, which I thought was so lovely of scrapbook.com to send these, that I'm going to use a couple of these sets in today's video. They also sent me a new Project Grip double-sided silicone craft mat, some mint tape, and a standard size Clearly Amazing mat, which is one of my favorite pieces or tools in my craft room ever. So let me go ahead and take all of this out, and I'm going to set up the tin, and I think a really nice and easy way to use it. So again, here's all 3 sets. I'm totally enamored with this tiny print stamp set. It's so cute. And then I took out one of the little plastic inserts because I'm using this obviously for the distress paints. So I left the one with the 20 openings, and I actually stored my paints upside down. I felt that the tops actually sat better inside of the plastic insert. Plus it keeps my paint towards the bottom where it's going to open, and because there's this little clear window on the top of the tin, I can see the colors very easily. So let me go ahead and start crafting. Now, I just got this jelly plate and I've never used it. It's brand spanking new, and I am very, 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 very new to jelly plates or gel plates. This one is from Ranger. I also have a Ranger brayer. So I'm just going to play here, and I just want you to come on this journey with me because I have never used paints on a jelly plate before. I have a teeny tiny little jelly plate that I've used some ink pads on, but I've never used distress paint. So I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm going into this and I'm trying to channel my inner crafters who use their jelly plates a lot, like Carrie Rhodes and Allison Aikila. So I'm going to link them down below along with scrapbook.com's YouTube channel, since they so wonderfully gifted me these products. But they, to me, are the experts on jelly plates, and I am just figuring this out. So again, this is going to be a journey, and I'm learning that these paints are definitely a little runnier than I guess what I was expecting when it came to acrylic plates on the jelly plate. So as you can see, they're kind of separating. I don't know what I'm doing, but I decided to try getting a print from that tiny print stamp set. And I also have, sorry, I forgot to say, a big stash of just white cheap paper that I'm using to make these backgrounds because, again, I don't know what I'm doing. So I went and watched some videos after that first kind of weird disaster, and I noticed that a lot of the videos that from those 2 crafters that I mentioned use like a white paint base. So I have this giant like tub of white acrylic paint. I will link down something you can get similar down below from scrapbook.com. If you're going to be picking up this paint tin and you need some white paint, you could just throw it in there with your cart. But I thought, okay, let me try that again with some white paint first. And then I added more of the color. And I think part of what's going on is I think I have just too much paint. I don't know. I'm definitely going to be messaging Carrie and Allison after this for some guidance. But, I'm just playing and I'm having fun. And honestly, if you look at how this stamps right here, it turns out so pretty from the paint and that beautiful tiny print floral background. I love these. I'm so happy that these turned out so pretty being stamped in the paint. Now, the design in my paint that I'm going to pick up here didn't really come out very well. And again, I think it's because I have too much paint and I'm not letting it like sit and dry. But you know what? I love the way those little prints came out, and I'm going to be using them on a card today. So I'm going to try something else. So I'm adding some more white paint. I tried not to put as much this time. Again, using the brayer to spread any of my paint around. And this time I'm going to use some pinks and purples. So I know that I've seen a lot of crafters lay down a color first. So I'm like, okay, let me mix this pink with the white. And again, using my brayer to spread it around. And I just think I have too much paint and it's starting to separate. Also, I accidentally had my brayer upside down, but that's okay. So I rubbed all that pink paint on. I grabbed a stencil this time. This is the Scattered Hearts from scrapbook.com. And I'm grabbing another piece of paper and I'm pressing it down because I know you can pick up some of the paint like through the stencil, obviously. So I did, and it didn't do a great job. And I don't know, again, if it's just because I don't have enough paint. I'm not letting it sit and dry kind of long enough, like giving it a chance to really firm up on the jelly plate, or if it's because the stencil, the print was too small. I don't know, but I'm getting better. By the end of this little section of this video, I'm going to create a print that I absolutely love. So I tried adding some purple paint to see if it would pick up and, have some of that pink hearts with the purple. It didn't really happen. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to add a little bit more white acrylic paint and we're just going to do some stamping again, just like I did with the green, orange, and brown colors that I used. So I grabbed another set. This is called Floral Trims, and I laid those down, and I'm doing my best not to like squish them around or slide them on the jelly plate because the paint obviously is still pretty slick. I'm just kind of pressing it, trying to get paint onto the stamp, and I'm just going to stamp it onto another piece of white paper. Everything that I'm using, I'm not throwing away. Even if the print turns out super weird or wonky or not at all what I wanted, I'm not throwing it away because I can use it as a background for something. And I can always add more ink and paint to it later on. So I stamped down those two floral images. They turned out really pretty. I love that soft purple color. And then I was picking up the rest of the paint onto this background, and you can kind of see where the stamps were. But, again, I think the stamp was very thin. The paint was still kind of wet. But it's a live and learn situation for me with this jelly plate. So then I wanted to jump into more of the cool colors since I've kind of already used everything so far, at least one paint from the the 5 different sets of 4. So now I'm moving into the cools and I'm doing some green and blue, and I thought this just totally gave Earth Day vibes, which today is Earth Day at the time of this video. So I am going to do a mix of this, I think this is pine needles and blueprint sketch, if I remember correctly. I'll have everything linked down below. But I wanted to create kind of an earthy tone feel. I also grabbed the dashed stencil from scrapbook.com and laid that down, trying to do that heart technique again, and I got kind of a cool print through the stencil. It looks pretty cool. And then I picked up the stencil and it has paint on it, so I'm also going to end up stamping that down later. And then I also picked up what was on the jelly plate, and it's okay. I think it'll make a really pretty kind of oceany background, or maybe I can die cut it with some waves dyes. I don't know, very interesting looking, but it's fine. But here is where I'm going to make my background that I am like super, super in love with. And I feel very confident after this one that I think I did a pretty good job. So I have a layer of white acrylic paint and it's much thinner this time. I kind of let it sit and dry and a little bit. Like, it's not hard paint, but let it firm up a tiny bit. And then I just splattered on more of that green and blue, and I'm mixing it up with my brayer. I want it to be splotchy, but I want it to kind of create a pretty teal color. So once I have that all, oh, you can see how pretty is that? Once I have that on the jelly plate, I let it sit again for a little bit, and then I grab my daisy stencil and put it onto the plate. I have a piece of paper that I'm pressing on and just kind of gently trying to pick up that ink that is through the stencil. And I love it. I don't know if you saw like how excited I was that I pulled my paper into frame, but it turned out so cool, and I'm so happy that I finally got a stencil design that looks really nice. I tried to ink or stamp, I guess you could say, the ink off of the stencil, but it didn't really turn out too well, but that's okay. I let the paint sit for a little bit on the jelly plate, and then I added more white acrylic paint, and then I put my paper down and I'm pressing it in, and this is going to be what I think is my best print in this video of the daisy stencil with those cool colors. So here is my reveal. And I am so, so happy with it. I felt like this was the first print that I got that turned out how I envisioned. But you know what? I have a ton of different options here to choose from. And I am going to actually have more than this. I put them all aside. And I'm going to put together 3 cards. Now, I am going to warn you, this video is already, we're at 10 minutes here. And it's a longer video, so I'm going to do a lot of jumping. I usually try to transition nice so it's kind of appealing to the eye. But in order to save some time, I'm just going to quickly kind of walk through what I'm doing. So I have my stacked A2 rectangles or nested A2 rectangles, and I'm going to create a frame out of some green polka dot paper. This is from the Boho 6x8 paper pad. I also used a square rectangle, an A2 rectangle to cut my pretty daisy background, and I'm going to glue down my polka dot first to a top folding card base, and then I'm going to add in that daisy background. I took the Hello die from the Sunny Lane kind of matching die set, but this one's called Thank You Sentiments 3. And I die cut the shadow out of just some scrap brayer paint that I would kept, running my brayer on to clean it off. And then I die cut Hello out of some dark blue cardstock that's from the Boho Smooth cardstock paper pad. So I have, blues and greens very similar to the colors that I was trying to create with my background. I also fussy cut out 3 of the daisies from that first stencil print that I did that I was so happy with, and I'm going to layer them behind that hello sentiment. Now, I felt like this was a lot of blue on blue on blue, so I am going to grab my Sunny Lane Florals die set and some more of that green polka dotted paper that came from the Boho paper pack, and I'm going to use the other side, which is the smaller polka dotted pattern, and I'm going to cut out a bunch of just this really cute little leaf design from the Florals die set. I think I do it like 6 times, and then I'm just going to tuck in 5 of those little leaves around my flowers and my hello sentiment to add in more of that green. I just felt like it was too blue and I wanted to break up the blue color. So my hello is popped up, and then I'll glue those little leaves around my flowers and sentiment. I did have an extra little sliver of paper of my daisy background, and because it's my favorite, I didn't want to waste it, so I will trim it down to be about 1 inch by 4 1/4, and I'm going to glue that on the inside of my card, as well as 1 more of those little leaves, because I cut 6 of them and only used 5 on the front. So I'm going to glue in my little strip. It looks like it's a little bit less than 1 inch, and then I will glue down that leaf. To add a little bit more fun to the front of my card, I'm going to grab the Honeydew Gloss Pops of Color. This is a brand new color, and I'm going to add some of that lighter green around my card. Again, just trying to bring in a little bit more green with all of that blue in the background. And here is a look at how this Hello Daisy card turned out. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite card of the 3 that I'm going to make today. I mean, I love them all, but that one is definitely my favorite because I felt like it was my most successful gel print, and I was really proud of it. So now I'm going to move into my second card, and this time I'm going to use these more harvest kind of colors. So of course that means bringing out the harvest paper pack and matching pattern paper pad. And I'm also using the birthday celebration sentiments 2. And I'm also going to later grab the autumn leaves emboss and die set. So very similar to how I die cut the hello on the first card, I use some of that excess gel print excess paint from rolling my brayer to cut the shadow of my happy birthday. I already had happy birthday die cut in white, so I'm just going to use those for this card. I created another frame using my nested rectangles out of some of the pattern paper from the harvest pad, and then I'm going to cut a few green leaves from the center of this green piece of cardstock that will be in between that dark kind of black brown colored frame and my gel print stamp design. So that way I'm not wasting paper. I needed a few leaves and the center of this cardstock is going to be covered anyway, so I just thought I would cut them out and then layer that in between. I'm using some foam adhesive to pop up my really cute tiny prints design using some of the oranges and cool as well as neutral distress paint. So I'm gluing my sentiment together. I'm going to use some foam squares to pop them up. I can't believe I'm like halfway done with this sheet of foam squares. This is my new favorite adhesive ever from scrapbook.com. I love this size and thickness of these foam squares. And I'm adding my sentiment to the front of the card. Once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to glue down my leaves, just kind of scattering them around, very similar to how I did my flowers on the hello card. And as I glue my leaves down, I realized that I forgot to die cut a flower. So I'm going to use the same paper that I cut out my happy birthday shadow, and I'm going to cut a flower from that same autumn leaves decorative emboss and die set. So I have the white center, so it kind of matches my sentiment, and I glued that on top of a flower that I die cut out of the paint, and there I have a cute little flower next to my happy. I've grabbed the Banana Split Gloss Pops of Color, which is another new color, a very soft yellow, and I'm adding that to the center of my flower as well as just around my sentiment and on my leaves. I like to tap the inside of my card to kind of dome out those little pops of color. And here is a look at my second card using these more warmer tone distress paints. And my final card is going to be a little bit out there. I mean, it's not out there. It's very florally and big, I guess, looking compared to the other two cards. And I'm grabbing my nested A2 arches. I'm going to be using it to cut out this purple print. And I'm also going to use two of the dies to create a frame of holographic paper from the A2 size of the paper pad. I used my stamped image from the purple and pink paints, and that was using the floral trims from Stampers Anonymous. And I actually die cut the I love you sentiment out of it and then the shadow out of some vellum. I just thought that would look really pretty, and I love the details of the flowers on the sentiment. I have a top folding A2 card base, and I thought about making a shaped card, so I was going to cut it with the largest A2 arch, but I thought I would just keep it right onto a regular standard size A2 card because I'm going to add some large florals to my card, and it will kind of cover one of those top corners. After my glued down sentiment to the vellum was, pretty dry, I added some really thin foam adhesive. This is the 1/8 strips from scrapbook.com behind the letters, so that way you don't see any of the adhesive through the vellum. And I'm gluing that to the purple arch. I'm going to pop this up with some foam adhesive while I'm die cutting some florals out of some more purple paint. I keep moving my arm like you can see me making a brayer motion, but my leftover paint from the brayer. I die cut purple flowers and I die cut pink centers to my flowers. I'm also going to cut out some smaller flowers, and all of these are from the Sunny Lane floral die set. I'm going to cut some smaller ones out of the pink excess paint on the paper, and those centers will be from the holographic paper, the same one that I created that arch frame from. And for this, I thought I would grab some silver pops of color. So this is a glitter one, and I'm adding just a few dots here and there around my card. Again, I'll tap the inside to kind of dome the pops of color out. And that will be my third and final card that I made using some fun gel prints using the not brand new, but back from the vault distress paints from Ranger and Tim Holtz. And again, a huge thank you to scrapbook.com for gifting me these to to create some inspiration for you today. I hope that you had fun along this journey with me while learning how to use my jelly plate and that you feel inspired to try something new just like I did. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!